Hi, I'm Charles with Handicap. A boy is born blind with the hero scar carved into his body. He is told he'll never see the world, so he decides to use magic to create his own eyes. While testing small things with his magic, he realizes that he can tell red apples from green ones without seeing them. He then uses magic to trace the ink in books and slowly begins to understand the pictures. He pushes further, eventually learning how to change water's color and shape, not for practice, but to learn how the world actually works. Eventually, he reaches a point where he can shape water into animals that move and fly on their own. The problem is that he eventually surpasses everyone teaching him, and the only person left who can guide him is a royal sorcerer he's not even allowed to meet. The story begins as a boy named Cunnin wonders what it means to be able to see. Everyone has told him that his eyes can't see, so he wonders what it means. Cunnin has been blind his entire life, so his father explains that being able to see is simply the ability to perceive colors and shapes. As for Cunnin, his eyes bear the hero's scar left by the holy knight named Hester. Cunnin's father says that this is something to be proud of, so Cunnin agrees and accepts the meaning behind his father's words. Some maids can't help but feel sorry for him, but Cunnin can't understand why. He has never known any different, so he doesn't know why they would pity him for not being able to see. One day, Cunnin is taken to meet with someone named Miss Jenny, and he wonders if he really has to study magic. He is told that it would be a waste not to, because Cunnin was born with a water crest. Being able to use magic is a very special thing, so they want Cunnin to take full advantage. Cunnin, on the other hand, isn't as optimistic, because even if he learned magic, he still can't go anywhere without someone's help. Cunnin meets with Jenny, and she introduces herself as his magic tutor before starting their first lesson. She instructs Cunnin to say the word Aori, and she's impressed when he's able to cast a spell on his first try. Cunnin can only wonder what kind of magic he's using, so Jenny explains that it's water magic. Unfortunately, Cunnin can't see his own amazing feat, so Jenny describes it to him in great detail. The spell is called Aori, and it allows him to produce water using magic. She says that the water is crystal clear, and it's the size of an eyeball. Just mentioning eyes makes Cunnin think about his own, so Jenny apologizes. She fears that she might have made Cunnin upset, but it's the opposite. Her words have inspired Cunnin as he gets an idea. If he gets better at using magic, then he might be able to create eyes for himself. Cunnin finds new hope in this idea, so he decides to make it his life goal to make his own eyes with magic. With a new outlook on life, Cunnin finds that he's more interested in things than ever. Even the sandwich he's eating is a lot more interesting. He never gave it a single thought before, but now he can't help but wonder what's inside. With this hope for a better life, Cunnin's able to see more meaning in everything. Everything is really intriguing to him now, and he wants to know all about the world around him. Cunnin wonders what the grass-like thing is in his sandwich, so his maid explains that it's lettuce. The zesty tasting thing is mustard, and the sweet part is a plum. Even the maid is enjoying this, because Cunnin's new interest in food makes it more fun to cook for him. Cunnin says that he smells a lot of different things, and we see that his maid got carried away. She reiterates that cooking is really a lot of fun now, which is why she made several dishes for Cunnin. Afterwards, Cunnin goes to another lesson. He explains that he would like to hear the story of the Holy Knight Hister, but the teacher is shocked. She doesn't know if that's a good idea, but Cunnin's maid assures her that he is ready. Miss Flora wants him to tell her if the story becomes too much for him, but Cunnin tells her not to worry. He is thirsty for all kinds of knowledge right now, and he wants to learn as much as he can. Flora explains that a long time ago, there was a war between the heroes of the world and the Demon Lord. Hister was the hero of this nation, and he eventually was the one that defeated the Demon Lord. Unfortunately, he paid the price for doing so, as he lost an arm and a leg in the battle. Since that war, every now and then, the descendants of Hister are born with something missing. They are born without an arm or leg, or in Cunnin's case, he was born without eyesight. People have called such children reincarnations of the hero, or the hero's scar. As Cunnin practices magic again, he thinks about how he's one of the reincarnations of the hero. He doesn't let that define him though, because he's still himself, and this magic he's using is his own magical power. Cunnin's practice is going well, as he's able to control water a lot better now. He manages to split one of the water orbs, and Echo tells him that he split them into perfectly equal shapes. Cunnin is getting more confident with every practice, and he once again vows to create new eyes with magic one day. Cunnin refuses to let anything stop him, but using magic is exhausting. He has been practicing relentlessly since he started, and his body finally gives out. Cunnin says that he needs a lot more, so Echo assumes that he means that he needs a lot more affection from her. She credits herself for showering him with limitless affection because it has been helping him in training. Cunnin is quick to correct her though, because what he really needs is way more knowledge and stamina. That is what's necessary for strong magic, and Kanin is more determined than ever. Aiko reminds him that he's only 7 years old, so he will grow stronger, but Kanin refuses to waste any time. Passing out from using basic magic is unacceptable, so he must improve. Aiko comes up with a great idea and says that he should increase his food intake to have more energy. Doing it too quickly might cause problems though, so they will do it in phases. Kanin likes the idea, so he says that he also wants to strengthen his muscles. Unfortunately, he isn't very good at running or walking, so Aiko suggests that he do sword practice instead. Kanin loves this idea as well, so Aiko rushes off to find the best swordsman to teach him. Before she leaves, Kanin thanks her for helping him so much, and she thanks him in return for the praise. A while later, we see that Kanin has already begun his sword training. His instructor is named Oro, and he tells Kanin to pay attention to the muscles in his arms and shoulders. Oro is very detailed with his lesson, and he instructs Kanin to swing down in order of shoulders, elbows, and wrists. Eventually, Jenny arrives for his next lesson, so Kanin thanks Master Oro. Jenny's surprised to see that Kanin's learning swordplay, so he explains that he's doing it to help improve his magic. He needs more knowledge and stamina, so having a more dependable body will benefit him greatly. Jenny's in complete disbelief because Kanin has really changed a lot since they first met just a few days ago. Jenny tells him that he can take a short break before they begin, but Kanin is eager to get started. Jenny decides that they will go over the Aori spell again from the last lesson, so she tells him that he can begin with what he remembers. She says that it's okay if he forgot how to do it, and she is shocked when Kanin displays his immense progress. He is able to summon several orbs at once, and Jenny is left speechless. She only taught him a little bit of the spell, so she can't believe that Kanin has already mastered this much on his own. This kind of progress is terrifying, but what's even more shocking is that Kanin doesn't even realize how incredible this is. Elsewhere, a girl named Mirika is told that her carriage is ready. Mirika wishes that she didn't have to go, so her maid wonders if she really hates the idea of visiting her fiancé that much. Mirika points out that Kanin probably feels the same way because he always looks so gloomy every time they meet. Unfortunately, Mirika has no choice but to go because the king was the one who decided this. As she goes to visit Kanin, Mirika thinks about how Kanin was born with the hero scar. This makes him a very important person to the kingdom, so their political marriage is part of her obligation as royalty. Unfortunately, Mirika doesn't have many fond memories of being with Kanin because he's always been so sad. She would ask him what he wanted to play, but he would say that he didn't want to play anything. He explained to her that he couldn't do anything or go anywhere alone, so there was nothing he wanted to do. Mirika couldn't bear to hear this, and she doesn't look forward to having to look at such a gloomy face for the rest of her life. When she arrives, however, Mirika is shocked after being greeted by the much happier Kanin. She wonders what changed, so Kanin reveals that he's fallen in love with magic. Kanin wastes no time as he shows her what he can do, and she's amazed by the beautiful orbs of water that he can make. Kanin turns the water into a beautiful rainbow, and he takes a moment to apologize to Mirika. He knows that being around him must have been difficult for her, so he says sorry for making her tread lightly around him. Kanin wonders if she would like to hear the stories he has to tell her about his improvement, and Mirika's in disbelief. Kanin's a completely different person, and she didn't even know that he could make such a happy face. She accepts his invitation, so they spend the entire day together. On her way home, Mirika thinks about how much fun she had. Kanin meanwhile thinks about how he never offered his hand to Mirika like that before. Aiko points out that it's because he's a gentleman, so Kanin decides to learn more about this as well. He turns to Miss Flora and requests for her to teach him how to behave around Princess Mirika. He enjoyed spending time with her, so he wants to become a gentleman worthy of her. That night, Jenny can't get over what she saw from Kanin. He was able to create 7 beautiful water balls all at the same time, and not even she can do that. Kanin has already perfected elementary magic, and he's learning too fast for her to keep up. There's nothing for her to teach him anymore, so she decides that they will have to move on to intermediate magic. Jenny stops herself though, because that might put too much of a strain on Kanin. This was supposed to be a sweet job, where she got paid handsomely to teach elementary magic to a kid, but it's turning into something else. Kanin is advancing rapidly, and he's showing no signs of stopping. The problem is that while magic is convenient, it can also be dangerous. Because of this, Aiko determines that it's too soon for the 7-year-old Kanin to learn sophisticated magic. It's also too soon to give up though, so Jenny's determined to find the best way to teach him. On top of that, Jenny says that she can't give up on this because she has bills to pay. The next day, she tells Kanin that they will be trying something different today. Kanin's ready to get started, and he doesn't deny her request. He declares that hearing her suggestion using her beautiful voice makes him feel like he will accept anything that she has to say. Kanin's charm is off the charts now because of what Flora taught him, so Jenny can't believe that he's changed even more. Jenny begins a new lesson by explaining that the Aori spell Kanin has been using simply creates water. However, if the spell is broken down into the different kinds of magic being used, Kanin will get a better understanding of it. The Aori spell can be separated into the act of producing water, then making it float, and then maintaining its ball shape. If they break it down even further, they can see that there's a lot more things that can be controlled. These are its temperature, viscosity, composition, color, shape, scent, and taste. Jenny gives him a demonstration by forming 2 orbs and telling Kanin to touch them. Kanin does, and he immediately notices that one of them is cold and the other is warm. Jenny then says that magical alterations add character to magic, but Kanin doesn't understand what she means. Jenny explains that character is what defines and differentiates every sorcerer and their talents. By making alterations in their magic, a sorcerer can create original kinds of magic that is uniquely their own. Kanin understands now, as he realizes that he can alter the fine details of his magic and infuse his own characteristics into it. Kanin uses Aori again, but this time he does something different. He has Aiko drink the water, and she's amazed to find that it has the flavor of a plum. She's really impressed, but Jenny is terrified. She stayed up all night to come up with this magic alteration lesson, but Kanin was able to master it in seconds. Kanin says that it wasn't easy, but he promises his teacher that he will learn to do all the alterations as soon as he can. That night, we see that Kanin has been studying relentlessly, and he's even practicing in bed. He thinks about how he can tell the shape and smell of things, but he doesn't know the colors because he can't see. Without being able to do that, Kanin knows that he won't be able to create magical alterations, and he definitely won't be able to create eyeballs. Kanin assures himself, however, that he will figure out a way because he desperately wants to see everything the world has to offer. A while later, Aiko asks Kanin to create some water so she can make some tea for him. Kanin uses Aori to create another sphere, and he moves it to her like normal. However, as the water makes its way to her, Kanin gasps in disbelief. Aiko wonders if something is wrong, so Kanin reveals that he thinks he just saw something. Aiko can't believe that he was able to see, so she says that if he's joking around, then she will punish him. Kanin says that he isn't sure about it either, and technically he didn't actually see. Aiko demands for him to stop messing around, so Kanin explains exactly what happened. His eyes didn't actually see anything, but he feels like he saw colors with his magic. It was more like he felt what things look like, but he can't really explain it. Kanin then lifts an apple, and he wonders if it's red. The apple's actually green, so Kanin grabs another one, and he guesses correctly this time. Aiko's amazed because this means that Kanin's able to sense their colors, and the only problem is that the names of the colors don't correspond for him yet. This is understandable because Kanin has never seen them before, so he just needs to learn to associate words with the stuff he can detect now. Aiko thinks they should test his new ability, so she instructs him to count how many apples there are. Kanin counts 3 red apples and 2 green ones, so Aiko is once again amazed. He really is able to see things with his magic, and it's like some kind of miracle. Later, Kanin's father is shocked to learn that Kanin's able to see colors. Aiko explains that it's only in a small range, but Kanin definitely seems to be able to recognize colors now. The closer an item is, the clearer it is, and he can also tell the color when he touches them. Kanin can even use this on books by tracing the ink to recognize the colors in pictures. He hasn't learned to read letters yet, but he's already consumed several picture books and encyclopedias. Arson's very impressed with Kanin's growth, so he says that Aiko should move back into the main house. Aiko's job was to watch over Kanin because he needed to be tended to all the time because of his condition, but he doesn't seem to need that anymore. Aiko declines the offer as she points out that Kanin is trying to change a lot right now. Every day is a struggle for him, and changing his environment might hinder him from achieving his goals. That's the last thing she wants, so Aiko decides to stay by his side. Arson apologizes for putting so much of the responsibility on her, but Aiko loves her job, and she really enjoys the great pay. Arson couldn't be happier, and he points out that Aiko's cheeriness must be having a really good effect on Kanin. Aiko's grateful for the kind words, but she says that instead of a compliment, she would really like a raise. Later, Aiko's surprised when Kanin wants to do some more experimenting. Kanin explains that Jenny will be arriving soon, so he wants to surprise her with something. Kanin then uses Aori, but this time he colors the water red. He explains that when he makes the orbs bigger, he can sense the color more strongly. Just then, Kanin's mother arrives after hearing that he can see colors with magic. Kanan compliments his mother like the exquisite gentleman he's learning to be, but he loses focus. His spell ends, and it covers Kanan and Aiko in red water. Kanan addresses his mother again, but it looks like he's covered in blood, and his mother is terrified. Kanan doesn't understand why his mother just screamed right now, so Aiko must explain that red is also the color of human blood. Arson is furious at them, so he says that Kanan is grounded, and Aiko's pay will get cut. Absolute chaos ensues, and we see that Jenny's nearby. She is shocked because Kanan just keeps advancing, and he's becoming more terrifying every day. Jenny wonders just how far he can go, and she thinks that he might even earn the highest honor in this world. It's incredibly rare to earn this title, but Jenny believes that he can become the Cerulean Sorcerer. 2 years later, we see that Kanan has turned 9 years old. Arson determines that they have to start thinking about Kanan's schooling, and we see that he's looking at an academy. Later, Arson tells Kanan's brother named Ryota that he's thinking about sending Kanan to the school for noble children. Ryota is worried though, because Kanan has never been outside of the mansion. Arson is sure that Kanan will be scared of strangers in the outside world, so that is why he wants Ryota to accompany his brother. Ryota is really concerned though, because of a bad memory he has. A few years ago, Kanan was afraid to go out and play, so Ryota assured him that he would be fine. He promised to hold Kanan's hand to help him, but Kanan slipped. Ryota lost hold of his brother, and he hasn't been able to forgive himself for letting Kanan down. He's eager to redeem himself though, so he promises his father that he will protect Kanan at any cost. As for Kanan, he explains to Aiko that he's studying hydromancy. To do it, you must put water into a container that is processed with supernatural powers. This allows the user to tell fortunes with it, or look for missing items. Aiko wonders if they can look for the youth and beauty that she has lost over the years, but this is just another signal for Kanan to turn on the charm. He shows just how much progress he has made, as he tells Aiko not to worry because she is young, and right in the middle of the bloom of youth. She wonders if they can use it to find her a future husband, but the smooth Kanan says that men will be lining up to be with her. As Kanan has another class with Miss Flora, she can't help but think about how much progress he has made. She has taught him manners as a noble gentleman, and now he speaks with a lot of confidence. Her only concern is that he might be seen as being a bit shallow, and Kanan doesn't make things any better as he compliments his teacher. Still, she's relieved, because compared to how depressed he was 2 years ago, Kanan has become much sweeter. Afterwards, Aiko takes Kanan to go see his father. It's freezing cold outside though, so Kanan uses Aori to create some warm orbs of water. Their warmth is incredibly soothing, and Aiko's amazed by how soft they are. Kanan explains that he encased water with a super soft and stretchy membrane, so the orbs almost feel like pillows. He says that this is just a prototype, but Aiko says that she wants a bed made out of this stuff already. Kanan can't help but wonder why his father wants to see him, and he fears that he might have done something bad. Aiko points out that Kanan hasn't done anything wrong recently because he learned his lesson from the Sea of Blood incident 2 years ago. When they arrive, Kanan is greeted by his brother. Ryota wonders if Kanan would like for him to guide him by hand, but Kanan declines. He can sense his surroundings pretty well now, so he doesn't need help anymore. Ryota can't help but think about how his brother always used to need him, and Kanan can sense that something is wrong. Ryota says that it's nothing though, and he's just impressed by what Kanan's able to do with magic. When Kanan meets with his parents, Arson says that they have something important to tell him. Flora informed them that Kanan finished learning what is covered at the school for noble children. He has gotten really far with homeschooling, but they wonder if Kanan is interested in going to the actual school. Kanan immediately says that he's not interested because he would hate to trouble anyone around him. Besides that, there is something that he has decided to prioritize over school. Arson says that he always believed that Kanan should do what his heart desires, but there is a problem. Noble children are obligated to go to school, so Arson has arranged for Kanan to attend the school for nobles. However, Arson agrees that it's no longer necessary for Kanan to go, and he even has special permission from the king to not attend. Arson leaves the decision to Kanan, but he warns that there are other things that he needs to take into consideration. Kanan assumes that he's talking about how he spends his allowance, but that's not it. The two of them begin to bicker over this misunderstanding because Kanan thinks that his father's upset with him. He assumes that Arson is still angry about him turning their garden into a sea of blood, but Arson already forgot about that. Being reminded about it upsets him though, so he says that Kanan is grounded again. After they settle down, Arson explains that what Kanan really needs to think about is how his decision will affect America. Those who do not fulfill their noble obligations are at a disadvantage in high society. Because of Kanan's decision to not go to school, Mirka might be viewed in a negative light when they get married. That's the last thing Kanan wants, so he decides to go to school. Arson points out that he's not asking Kanin to go for years because he just needs to take the promotion exams. Kanin has no clue what those are, so Arson explains. If Kanin passes the exams, he will receive the official certificate of graduation. There are 5 exams needed to graduate, and how long they take depends on the student. There are kids who rush through them and graduate as early as a few days after they enroll. There are also kids who take their time and study carefully. That's a huge relief for Kanin because it seems pretty easy, and he plans to go pretty fast. Ryota explains that he and Mirika will be graduating after the next exam, so Kanin will be taking it with them. Kanin is taken to get prepared for his trip, so Arson tells Ryota something important. There are other royals at the school, and he fears that they might try to approach Kanin and Mirika. Ryota tells his father not to fear, and he promises to watch over them. Later, Mirika is delighted to hear that Kanin will be going to school. She looks forward to spending time with him there, but Kanin admits that he doesn't know what to expect. Mirika promises to guide him, but something else is bothering our hero. He points out that if Mirika is with him, then all the boys who are in love with her will be jealous of him. Mirika says that won't be a problem, so Kanin wonders if it's because she's not popular. Mirika is insulted, so she assures him that there are many boys that like her. Kanin doesn't look forward to confronting them, so he wonders if he should get a new cane for self-defense. Eventually, we see that Kanin's all geared up and ready for his new adventure. Aiko is amazed to see how dashing he is, and she says that he looks like a classic storybook prince. Kanin plays along, and he says that his true identity has been revealed. Kanin then says goodbye to his family, and he uses a yori to put water around the wheels of his carriage. This is to prevent the carriage from bouncing around, and Ryota is amazed by how smooth the ride is. Magic is really convenient, and Kanin's really glad he found out about it. Since magic is so versatile, Kanin hopes that even he may be able to find a job in the future. Ryota is sure that Kanin must be nervous to travel so far from home, but Kanin points out that he's grown a bit stronger. Kanin reveals that he knows how much his brother has worried about him. He can also tell that Ryota blamed himself when he fell that one day. Kanin assures his brother that he's alright now, and so much has changed. He used to wish that he could just disappear, but now he's determined to survive no matter what. Ryota is incredibly relieved because Kanin really has changed a lot since learning magic. Kanin keeps going as he says that he has a drive to prevail even if the rest of the world perishes. Kanin's getting pretty extreme now, so Ryota wonders if his brother is getting carried away. Kanin still isn't done though, as he vows to outlive everyone so thoroughly that he feels bad for the entire human race. Ryota never could have imagined Kanin being this way, so he wonders if this is really his little brother. Just then, Ryota is amazed as Kanin can tell that they're getting close to the school. It can't even be seen from here, so Kanin explains that he can sense a lot of people nearby. Eventually, they arrive at the school, and they are greeted by Mirika. Kanin is as charming as always, so he asks Mirika if he can have half of her day so he can tell her how happy he is to hear her beautiful voice first thing in the morning. Mirika matches his energy and tells him that his tie is adorable. Kanin agrees, but he wonders if it's even more adorable than she is. Mirika says it's not, and he's glad, because if it was, then he would have torn it off. The two go back and forth like this for a while, so Ryota can only wonder what's wrong with them. Mirika prepares to lead them inside, but she wonders if something is wrong because Kanin isn't following them. Kanin has gone completely silent as he can hear the voices of everyone in the school. There are so many people inside, and their voices are endless. This is Kanin's first time being in a public space with countless people, and he is sure that his past self would have run from this. Kanin is a different person now though, so he confidently heads inside. Nearby, a professor named Cast thinks about how it's almost time to greet her new student. It's Kanin, and she knows him to be the noble with the hero scar. She heard rumors that he's very shy, and she wonders if a novice teacher like her can handle the job of showing him around. Just then, some girls fawn over a new student. They say that he's incredibly charming, and they compare him to a prince. They're talking about Kanin, so Cass can't believe that this is the same kid that she heard was so shy. Cass introduces herself and explains that she will be Kanin's guide. Kanin puts on the charm like always, so Cass can only wonder if this kid is real. Just then the school bell rings, which means that Kanin's group will have to split up. They promise to meet back together at lunchtime, and Ryota asks for Cass to take care of his brother. The group parts ways, and Cass gets the feeling that guiding Kanin will be a lot of work. Meanwhile, some students point out that Kanin the hero scar has finally arrived. Some of them have heard that Kanin received blessings from the king because he's the first hero scar that has been born in the last 100 years. This upsets their leader, so the kid takes it back and says that Kanin doesn't seem like that big of a deal. These kids are terrified of the kid named Lyle, and they say that the hero scar is probably just a superstition. Lyle's hate for Cunnin is already very clear, and he tells his gang that it's time to go. Afterwards, Cass gives Cunnin an overview of the promotion exams. He already knows that if he passes the 5 exams, he will receive the certificate of graduation, but there is more. Cass explains that there are many students who graduate in 3 to 5 years. The promotion exams are for reviewing what a student has spent time studying over the past few months to year. If a student listens in class, then it won't be difficult, but if they fail the exam, they won't be able to take it again for another month. Cunnin understands now, as he says that basically, if he passes an exam, he can continue on to the next. But if he doesn't, then he can't take the next one until another month passes. Cass then goes on to explain that normally after taking an exam, there will be a period of time to prepare for the next. As an exception though, Cunnin's exams will be held in a shorter period. Cunnin doesn't know what she means by exception, so she explains that she received orders from his parents to do so. Cunnin is bothered by this, as he explains that his father and the king are besties. This is blatant nepotism, so he apologizes for his father pressuring the school to give him an exception. This is over Cass' pay grade though, so she says that she will pretend that she didn't hear that. Cass gives him the exam, but Cunnin isn't done explaining. He points out that his father and the king are thick as thieves, and they have been friends since the previous generation. Cass really doesn't want to get in any trouble, so she just begs Cunnin to start the exam. Afterwards, Cass says that she never expected Cunnin to continue chit-chatting for the entire exam. She is now grading his test, and she's shocked to find that he got everything right. He was really distracted because of all the talking he was doing, so she can't understand how he did so well. Elsewhere, Cunnin meets with Miraca to have lunch. Just then, they bump into Lyle, and Miraca is clearly bothered. A crowd begins to gather around them, so Cunnin can only wonder what's wrong. He can sense the tensions rising, so he wonders who this guy is in front of them. The crowd is getting even bigger, and Ryota arrives to see that something is happening. It turns out that Lyle's the prince, and he wonders if this brat in front of him really received a blessing from his father. Lyle is also Miraca's brother, so she begs for him to stop, but he tells her to stay out of this. Cunnin, meanwhile, is upset because he was having a good time with Miraca. He doesn't care who it is, because if this person is upsetting Miraca and getting in their way, then they are his enemy. Cunnin prepares to handle the situation, but Ryota arrives before things escalate. He wonders what's going on, but Lyle is furious. He calls Ryota disrespectful because he never gave him permission to speak. Lyle's gang starts piling on, so Ryota can't believe that royalty is already approaching Cunnin on the first day. Just then, Cunnin quietly says the word Aori. This allows Cunnin to control all the water in the nearby area without anyone noticing. He then uses his immense and overwhelming power to put that water on Lyle's pants. Ryota quickly finds that there's no reasoning with Lyle, but it's okay because Cunnin has it taken care of. Cunnin says that it seems like Lyle just wet himself, and Lyle's shocked to find that his pants are all wet. Lyle tries to deny it, but it's too late, as the damage has already been done. Everyone thinks he just soiled himself, but Cunnin's friends know that it was his doing. No one else knows though, so Lyle runs off after being completely embarrassed. Cunnin is pleased with himself for getting rid of that nuisance, so he says that it's time to feast. Ryota isn't as happy about the situation though, as he is sure that Cunnin was behind the attack. Cunnin just ignores that fact and says that he's in the mood for a hamburger. As they eat, Miraca explains that Lyle is her brother. Cunnin is horrified to hear this because he can't even imagine a big brother that doesn't cherish his siblings. Unfortunately, his friends explain that they do exist, so Cunnin says that he's glad that Ryota is his big brother. Ryota feels the same way, and he can't help but think about how much Cunnin has changed. He was always really shy, but now he's sticking up for himself against the prince. The prince is practically untouchable, and Ryota doesn't know how he will explain what happened to their father. Miraca says that this is just how Cunnin is now, so they shouldn't worry about it and just enjoy their meal. Cunnin doesn't give it another thought, and he just wants to talk about how delicious this burger is. Ryota can't help himself though, and he just hopes that they can graduate without any more problems. Unfortunately for him, this probably won't be the case, as we see that Lyle is furious about what just happened. Lyle is embarrassed, and he can't help but notice how everyone is talking about him wetting himself. Even when Cass tells him to walk quietly in the hallway, Lyle tells her to shut her mouth. Cunnin wonders why Lyle was being so rude to them, so Miraca assumes that it's because he wants to keep her in check. Lyle is the 6th prince, and Miraca's the 9th princess. In the royal hierarchy, she is below him, but Lyle still feels threatened. Miraca is engaged to Cunnin, who's a sorcerer, and the one known as the hero Scar. Their engagement is a big deal, so Mirika's status is rapidly rising. Cunnin has just made his debut into society, so their status together will be above Lyle's. Mirika doesn't want Cunnin to get the wrong idea though, so she assures him that she doesn't care about her status in high society. Even if her father didn't order it, she would still be happy to marry Cunnin. Cunnin turns on the charm again, as he says that he feels the same way. He couldn't be happier, and he might even kneel down to the king in gratitude the next time they meet. Cunnin says that he would actually like to apologize to Lyle, but the others won't allow it. A while later, we see that the day has arrived for Cunnin to take the final exam. He uses Aori, and Jenny says that today's alteration will be for Cunnin to try and change the sensation of the water. Cunnin does it immediately, and Jenny's impressed to see that the orb now feels like an apple. She then instructs Cunnin to touch other things during the day so he can try expressing their sensation. Afterwards, Ryota wonders what Cunnin is doing by petting a horse, so he explains that he's collecting samples for alterations. Mirika arrives soon after, so Cunnin declares how terrible he feels. Today is his last day hearing her voice at school, and it feels like the world is fading into dusk out of sorrow. Cunnin begins to get even more dramatic, but Mirika reminds him that school doesn't end until later in the day. Cunnin immediately changes his mind and says that he isn't sad anymore, so Ryota can't help but think that the two of them are crazy. Afterwards, Cass explains that Cunnin will be taking the final exam with the other students. Cunnin is amazed because it feels like an actual school, but he says it's a shame that he will no longer be in a special room with Cass. Cass assures him that she will still be watching him, even if there are more students, so she wishes him the best of luck. Ryota can't help but notice how close they are, so Cunnin explains that they talked a lot during the exams. Cunnin even learned that Cass became a teacher after following a guy she fell in love with. The guy unfortunately failed the test, so only she became a teacher. That's a lot of personal information, so the others can't believe that Cass discussed all that with Cunnin. Just then, the other students ask Mirika if she would introduce them to her fiancé. Cass says that he should introduce himself, so Cunnin prepares himself. He turns on the theatrics once more, and he tells everyone that it's nice to meet them. Cunnin formally introduces himself, and everyone listens closely. Cunnin doesn't stop there, as he says that he is relieved. He was starting to wonder if Mirika and his brother had no friends, because no one would approach them or talk to them. Ryota and Mirika are insulted, so Mirika reveals that she told everyone to leave them alone. This was a rare opportunity for her to enjoy school life with Cunnin, so she didn't want them being bothered. Cunnin didn't know that, and he's glad to see that his brother isn't lonely, and Mirika really does have friends. It's a huge relief for him not to have to make them feel better by reminding them how bad his situation is. Cunnin reminds them anyway by saying that he didn't have any friends growing up, and Mirika feels terrible for him. That doesn't last long, however, as she remembers that Cunnin is totally fine with not having friends. Cunnin ends the dramatic scene as he confirms this, and he points out that humans do surprisingly well while being alone. Nearby, Lao's reminded that it's time for the exam. Lao declares that it can wait, but his boys tell him that it can't be ignored. The final exam will be conducted all at once, and not even the prince himself is allowed to be late. Meanwhile, Cunnin collects more samples by petting a bird, and the students are told to take their seats for the exam. Mirika wants Cunnin to sit by her, but everyone is horrified when the angry Lyle appears. Everyone is on edge as they wonder what he will do, and Lyle thinks about how much he hates them all. They never say anything to his face, and they always talk behind his back. This is even true for everyone at the castle, because the maids always talk about how he's causing trouble at school. His rage builds the more he thinks about it, but he is shocked when Cunnin politely introduces himself. The entire room is in disbelief after seeing how casually Cunnin just walked up to Lyle, and they fear that Cunnin may lose his life. Cunnin keeps his cheery attitude though, as he says that he is happy to get the chance to say hello. Lao's getting even more upset, but Cunnin reminds him that they will be future brother-in-laws, so they should try to get along. Unfortunately, this doesn't work, as Lao points out that he never gave Cunnin permission to speak or hold his hand. Cunnin can tell by Lao's forceful hand just how serious he is, and he is impressed. Cunnin compliments him by saying that he is sure Lao's a great leader, and he wishes that he had eyes so he could see him. Lao is weirded out though, and he can only ask Mirika what is wrong with him. Everyone has a good laugh, and Mirika apologizes because she never knew that Lao could get flustered and blush like he is now. After everyone takes the exam, Cass says that she will announce the names of the students who passed. Everyone watches closely to see if she writes their names on the board, but this lady just draws a giant flower. This is because everyone passed, so the entire class celebrates. They all congratulate each other, and Mirka is delighted to be graduating with Cunnin. Cunnin heads home shortly after, and he thanks everyone for making his experience a lot of fun. Cass is really proud of him, because while he's a bit quirky, he's also a very bright student. La watches him leave, and we see that he's in a much better mood. He tells his gang that it's time to go, and they all promise to follow the prince wherever he goes. A while later, Jenny helps Cunnin train again. She shouts different alterations for the Aori spell, and Cunnin immediately does them. Jenny shouts out whirlwind, so Cunnin makes the orb of water spin around like a whirlwind. Jenny then instructs him to make a sudden stop and split it into 10, and Cunnin does that too. Jenny can't believe that he's able to do them all, so she turns up the difficulty. She makes him change their color, and he changes them to the exact color she calls out. Finally, she has him change their texture, and he does that as well. Jenny's pleased to see that he did so well, but Cunnin isn't finished. He says that he can do more, and he shocks Jenny by transforming the spear into the shape of a bird. It's not just a shape either, because the bird can even fly away. Jenny's entire world begins to crash down because Cunnin has advanced far beyond her expectations. He's doing things she couldn't even imagine, so she says that it's all over for her. Afterwards, Jenny has to speak with Cunnin. Cunnin assumes that it has something to do with a dinner to celebrate his graduation, but that's not it. Jenny reveals that she needs to tell him the truth, but first she wants to make sure that he's mentally prepared. She's going to reveal a shocking truth, so Cunnin sends his maid away. Cunnin thinks he knows what she's going to say, but it's also sudden. He assumes that she's going to reveal that she's actually the goddess of the night sky, and she wants to tell him that she must soon return to the world of the gods. Jenny commends him for his great imagination, but that's not even close to being true. Jenny stops wasting time, and she reveals that the truth is that there is nothing she can teach him anymore. The fact is that it's actually been quite a while since she has had nothing to teach him. She covered elementary magic with no attacking ability, and she has taught him everything she could in that range. Now he's using magic even better than she can, and once he learns new magic, he will surpass her in no time. Cunnin says that's not true because he enjoyed the little magic challenges she came up with, trying to deceive him with every possible method. She kept coming up with new ways to challenge him, and it broadened his range of magic. Jenny was also the one that inspired him and gave him a purpose in life. Jenny admits that it did take a lot of work to come up with the challenges, and there were many times she struggled to come up with one. Cunnin refuses to believe that she has nothing left to offer, so he assumes that there has to be another reason. He wonders if she actually wants to quit because her pay is low, so he says that he can ask his father to give her a raise. Jenny reveals that it's actually the opposite, because it's unbearable to get paid so much when she has no job to fulfill. She is at her limit, and she thinks Cunnin deserves better. Jenny then says that he should have an exceptional sorcerer who's much better than her as his teacher. She can't help him improve any further, and she can no longer guide him. Cunnin knows that she was just piecing together the lessons with little challenges, but he says that this is still a talent. She came up with so many of them, and they were all very helpful. Cunnin doesn't want her to leave, so he just tells her to keep deceiving him. He desperately wants her to keep being his teacher, so he once again demands for her to keep deceiving him. As Cunnin makes his plea, a bunch of the animals he created with the Aori spell begin to appear. They all surround Jenny, but she still says that she can't teach him anymore. Cunnin's magic is far more advanced than hers now, and she's doing what's best for him. The two argue back and forth for a while, but in the end, Jenny decides that she must leave. As she leaves, Jenny can't help but think about how Cunnin is an unmistakable genius. He has limitless potential, and he has what it takes to become the Cerulean sorcerer. Even with God-given talents, Cunnin went through endless trial and error, and he challenged himself to overcome it all. Jenny's inspired by Cunnin's work ethic, so she decides to push herself too. She says that she can't lose to her own student, so she wants to visit her own teacher so she can continue learning herself. Later, Cunnin is shocked to learn that Flora has resigned as well. Cunnin finished the curriculum, and he graduated from the School of Noble Children, so Flora had nothing left to teach him. Flora said that she wouldn't have been able to hold back her tears, so she didn't say goodbye in person. Cunnin says that he will write her a letter, so Aiko has a request. She wants Cunnin to ask Flora if there's a man in her manor she can set her up with, because she's still looking for a husband. Cunnin can't believe that she wants to leave too, but Aiko assures him that he will be fine on his own now. Cunnin points out that everyone is leaving, and he fears that he might pass away from loneliness. He really doesn't want Aiko to leave, so he refuses to ask about the tall, handsome guy that she's looking for. That night, Cunnin tells his father what Jenny said about him finding an exceptional sorcerer to teach him. Luckily, Ryota has a suggestion because he heard a rumor at school that there's an extraordinary royal sorcerer. Arson tries to interject, but Ryota keeps going. Ryota says that the guy's name sounded something like Zio, and their mother has heard of him. His name is Zeonli, and he is known for being a sorcerer of immense power and beauty. Cunnin wonders if the guy will agree to be his teacher, but Arson tells everyone to hold on. He says that it's impossible to invite a royal sorcerer here, but Cunnin can't understand why. Cunnin reminds his father that he has connections because he's best bros with the king. Arson can only wonder where Cunnin learns to talk like that, and he determines that it must be coming from Maiko. Arson then explains just how impossible it would be to have the royal sorcerer as a teacher. They are directly under the king's chain of command, and no one can give them orders other than the king. They rarely leave the castle, and getting in touch with them is restricted. Meeting with Diony directly would be difficult, and getting him to come to their house will be impossible. Arson hopes that Cunnin will just drop the idea, but he is wrong. Cunnin has an idea, so he says that he should accompany Arson the next time he visits the castle. He imagines a scenario where he gets lost and the royal sorcerers come to help him. He thinks this will lead him to becoming their apprentice, but Arson can't believe how flawed that plan is. Cunnin assures his father that his plan has a 90% success rate, but Arson doubts that very much. Arson pokes holes in his terrible plan, but Cunnin asks his mom, and she thinks it's a great idea. She helps Cunnin convince Arson, so Arson agrees to ask the king. Cunnin is very grateful, but Arson must remind him not to get his hopes up. Elsewhere, Grandmaster is informed about Cunnin and his request. He's an apprentice-level sorcerer, and he's asking to study under a royal sorcerer, but that's unheard of. Power and status mean nothing to royal sorcerers, and they won't care how close a noble is to the king. The Grandmaster reads over Cunnin's profile, and he seems to take an interest in our hero. Thanks for watching my recap. Make sure to like the video.